we're live. Right. Cuzzo, hit him with that intro.
Back to the Electives Podcast. This is episode 35. We've got some good stuff for you guys today. But first and foremost, we wanted to bring up the fact that, fortunately, the Luna family lost a close member of the family. Today, you know. One of your pets.
Yeah, the family dog, man, family dog. But and I just want to touch on it briefly, just because it was a cool process, and the fact that he was like an older dog, so we had to put him to sleep, put him down. But we were able to find a company that could come to the house. Oh, so nice. That was real nice because you didn't have to go to the hospital, sit in that room.
Right.
It's cold in there. Like, this was a lot more comfier for the dog.
More intimate.
Yeah, more intimate for the family. So we didn't know about it until we found it. Mm-hmm. So I think for anybody else out there going through that or about to go through that, definitely recommend doing it that way.
For sure.
Letting the dog go that way. For sure. It was nice. It was a nice. It was just a nice way to go. Yeah, nice goodbye. Yeah.
No, it's important, man, because pets are like they are family.
Yeah, they're family, man.
Like you said, he was 16, so he's been around for a long
old man.
time.
He was an old man, and that was the good part, was that he lived a long time. Mm-hmm. He's just breaking down. He's just old. So it's nothing. It was nothing like super surprising. It was like we were able to prepare.
Right.
And for the day to come. So it was nice, man. So we'll get like a fossil print of the paws and an ink. Yeah. So I might be in the tattoo shop. Get another tattoo. But yeah, man, it was although it's he's obviously it's not like I don't want to say it's a terrible day, but it's just like, although that happened, the sun's out, it's shining. He was it's all good, man. It's all good.
And I'm sure you lived a great life too,
Oh yeah. He ate good.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys take good care of your pets, so
yeah.
How do you think the rest of the family is doing with the grieving process of losing a pet?
I think they'll be fine, obviously. I think my brother will probably need the most time, maybe my mom too. But otherwise, I think it's fine, just because we were able to mentally kind of prepare for the day, because he was, like I said, he was slowly breaking down. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it wasn't like a shocker, like wake up and then he's ultimately gone. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could you speak on like what it's like, going through that process of when you're there and you're seeing family and everybody, obviously emotions are heightened, right? And how it seems like, because we've discussed this before, but it seems like natural instinct of us as human beings is there always is one person in the room or that's a part of the family that kind of has to stay strong for everybody.
Right.
Could you speak with that?
Yeah. So that was interesting, man, because as like we said, I'm sure all of us have gone through some shape or form of losing either a family member or a dog or a pet, I guess you should say. But yeah, man, it was like I was sad, but I guess my body just couldn't cry, I guess what it was. So I saw everybody else tearing up and crying and stuff like that, but I don't know what it was. It was kind of like weird. Like, I was sad. I definitely was sad, but I just, that part of my body didn't react that way for whatever reason. I think, and I don't know if it's like an instinctual thing or like something that's built in us as men. Because the only time I remember something like that was like when my grandpa passed.
Right.
And then I looked around and my dad was like a rock, like nothing. Like, I'm sure he was obviously wrecked, but
he
couldn't
show it.
Yeah.
In that moment, he felt like he couldn't show it.
Yeah. And I don't even think it was like him, because you could tell when somebody's like holding it in.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like that. It was just kind of like,
it's just numb.
Like, hey, like, I'm here. Like I got, almost like, like he's like the next one from like my grandpa, like to pass him the torch or whatever. Yeah. So
maybe that is what he was feeling.
It could be
more so.
Could be
anything. I think that'd be a good question to ask him.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a weird feeling. If anybody else out there have ever felt it, it's definitely like a weird feeling. You're like, oh, like you're almost like, man, am I like messed up or not?
Something wrong with me?
Yeah, is there
Yeah.
something wrong with me?
Yeah.
But no, it's just
It's normal. I think
yeah.
for a lot of men, it's completely normal for us, man. And then which is weird is there there may be a time, or there maybe will come a time where you could be driving down the road,
Right.
not even thinking about it. It pops
Right.
into your head, and you're by yourself, and
Oh,
then just the waterworks start coming.
turn on them
Yeah,
faucets, baby.
yeah,
Like,
it just starts. It just
yeah.
starts leaking, and you can't help it. But you just say to yourself in that moment when you
Right.
finally do feel it coming over you,
Oh yeah, there ain't
just
no
like, all
stopping
right,
it.
let me just go ahead and get this out the way.
Yeah, let me.
You know?
You like look around, like,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, who's looking? No, yeah. I mean, and it's weird. You know, it's weird. Like we see that with men. I'm sure there's women out there too, because sometimes the women
Oh,
have
for
to be
sure.
both. You know, like we've talked about,
True. Yeah.
but yeah, like as a man, like sometimes, we don't cry, we don't show emotion. So then, a lot of that happens in a spot or a place where you're alone,
Yep.
which is nuts.
It
Too,
is. It is, but it's a lot more common than what people think.
Oh, it's super
A lot
common,
more
man.
common,
Definitely super common.
Because I
But
think for men too, like you don't want to. It's. I'm not saying crying is weak. You just don't want to. Sometimes I think the thought is that you don't want to allow yourself to be too emotional.
right,
Right. You want to stay still grounded and tethered. But I've also learned that, hey, there's strength in that. There's strength
yeah,
in being vulnerable. There's strength in crying. As long
right.
as it's done the right way. Now, you're crying for 3 weeks straight. You know, that might be
Right.
It
You
might
need
be.
somebody to be like, hey man,
Yeah,
man, all right, I know,
let's
I
bring
know,
you
but
back. Let's bring you back.
yeah, we got to get you going, man.
But no, I think it is a healthy thing to do. And we all have to find healthy ways of doing it, whether it's riding in the car by yourself, at the gym,
Right.
Finding a healthy outlet, man, to
Yeah.
express those emotions and those feelings. It's important.
Yeah, definitely, and like you said, finding somebody to actually talk to about it,
For sure.
for sure is definitely needed, because I think the worst thing you could do is bottle it up. And that was like advice that I got from somebody back in the day. It was just like, man, like, and it's important, I think, to tell people at home, like, if you could go there first, I would highly suggest that,
Right.
because you gotta live with everybody. So it's better if they understand what's going
For
on
sure. For sure.
than them trying to guess why you're in a
Yeah.
bad mood, or why you're not talking to anybody. Like,
Right.
it's better if you just like be like, hey
Admit
man,
it and be
be like, hey man, I'm going through this. Like, I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
then at least they can probably work around it, and
yeah.
then help you to get through it too, without you even noticing it. Because
Right. But even that is tough for us to admit as men.
Right.
To admit that you actually are going through something.
Yeah,
that
like,
you are having just a mental funk.
yeah, I'm in a funk, man.
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. And then
Yeah.
of course, you don't want people to walk on eggshells around
Well,
you either.
right. Well, yeah, that's
So-
the other thing. So like, if you admit that you're going through it, at least and then you can kind of recognize that, like, all right, like we were talking about. So like, if obviously if you lose a pet or somebody, it's gonna make you sad, maybe even depressed. Lonely, all that stuff. Like, all that stuff could trigger, which is fine. But if we let it destroy us,
Yeah.
where it's affecting everything,
Right.
then
Then
that's
it's an issue. It can
yeah,
be
I
an
think
issue.
that's when it becomes an issue. You gotta obviously recognize it's gonna be painful, but like my grandma says, it's like, life goes on, mijo. Like, you gotta keep going.
And it's
And
true.
yeah, and you're like, dang,
It's cold blooded.
that's cold, grandma. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
No,
And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, that's the way it is though. Like, life just keeps going, man.
Yeah.
And it is
and
what it is.
you just find better ways of coping.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of dealing with it, because you I mentioned this before, like when people pass away or a pet passes away, especially if they were super close to the family, you don't forget that day.
Right.
So
Yeah,
every
you'll know-
year around
yeah.
that time, when it whenever it was,
Right.
you may go through a little funk in that
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. Which is
So-
normal.
Which is normal. 100% normal, man. 100%
Yeah.
normal.
And then what's good is like what we were gonna originally talk about this episode. So like I said, we only gonna touch it, but if you don't have somebody to talk to or somebody in your ear to help you, then that's why, like, you got podcasts.
Yep.
Or something that you can listen
Audiobooks, yep.
to that can keep your mind right.
Right. Keep
Which
you
is
tethered.
yeah, keep you tethered. So
Yeah.
which is kind of how, like, we're gonna tie all this in right now.
For sure.
Is that those are good things to keep reminding you, because we all need reminders every day.
Yep.
So yeah. So what podcasts or any audio things are you listening to kind of keep you focused, keep your energy flowing?
The one right now that I'm a big fan of is his name is Lex Friedman. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it the correct way. But I came across his podcast, I'd say in the last year and a half or so. What I didn't know, and just from doing some research on him, is he's actually an Illinois native.
Oh, nice.
He was born in Russia.
Okay.
He's of Jewish descent. Him and his family, they moved to Chicago when he was young.
All right.
He actually went to Neuqua Valley, graduated from there.
Dang.
This guy's got, I mean, his catalog is, he's just an impressive human being, honestly. He gained a bachelor's and a master's at Drexel University in computer science. He's also, like I said, a podcaster. He's also a writer.
Right.
The two fields that he's known to work in are computer science and artificial intelligence. He even went to MIT.
Dang.
You know, so this guy's, he's an intelligent person. But what I love about his podcast is he's very down to earth.
Okay.
You know, he likes to get straight into it, get into real in-depth conversations with people and kind of pull things out of them maybe that they didn't even know.
Right.
You know, was inside of them or existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's an extremely hard worker.
Yeah.
You know, he's dedicated to his craft. His daily routine and daily life, man, is honestly, I'm extremely impressed. Just to give you a quick rundown, man, this guy, he likes to sleep 6 to 8 hours. Diet and exercise is a must. This guy will even exercise even if he's injured.
Dang.
Because to him, it's just about keeping the body active.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that, which is a great mindset to have. And obviously, don't go out there and, you know, I mean, this guy's, you know, he was, he's a very intelligent person, so he's not going to do anything to hurt himself.
Right.
I'm not telling people to go work out while they're injured.
Right.
But something that I thought was pretty cool that he does is a morning mantra to himself.
Okay.
Every single morning, he goes over rules and constraints for himself.
Yeah.
Right? Self-discipline.
Yeah.
Things that, you know, are distracting him potentially. Things that, you know, could take away from him, you know, being on his path. He says these things out loud.
Yep.
Then he lists his short-term goals, his long-term goals.
Right.
He visualizes what the actual day itself will look like of completing all these tasks.
Yeah.
And then lastly, he sticks to his core principles, you know. Okay. And like I said, that right there, starting your morning off like that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody should do that.
Right.
You know, but this is a good individual to learn from.
So what is his podcast focus on? Like what is he bringing to you that you, when you're listening, you're like, this is why I'm listening to him?
Like, for example, he had on Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Right. Matthew McConaughey, you know, is a world-renowned actor.
Right.
You know, but he's also an author, philanthropist, so on and so forth. Okay. And by having him on the podcast, what I learned is that he's got a lot of layers to him, you know. Okay. And he's able to get his guests, like I said, his podcast, man, are like hour and a half. I mean,
right.
They're pretty.
They're long.
You know, he goes all the way from the beginning to where they're at currently.
Okay.
You know, and really just peels back the layers. And I just enjoy that. Me personally, I enjoy.
So is it like a therapy session?
No, not therapy, but like life experience. Like
life experience?
Yeah, like one of the things Matthew McConaughey did was he talked about the journey that he took to in the Amazon rainforest, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Right, and how he just went on a whim.
Right.
He went, he did it, and all the things that he experienced on this journey.
Right.
You know? And Lex was just asking great questions, like, where was your head at during this and that? And
right.
So it wasn't necessarily a therapy session. He was just being very meticulous about, you know, getting all the details of the story.
Okay. And then, so for example, with that story, what were you able to take from that you were going to apply to yourself?
My biggest takeaway is that Matthew McConaughey had the faith to trust his gut, because it came to him in a dream. From what he said. It came to him in a dream that he needed to go on this almost spiritual journey, if you will, right? But to have the faith to go way over to the rainforest, not know how to navigate it, find some tour guides to guide you through this rainforest, and go on this, you know, this conquest, if you will,
right?
You know, and actually go through with it.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty, you know,
it
takes a lot of guts to do something like that.
Did you listen to that before or after you proposed?
Oh, I had listened to it before.
Oh,
Yeah,
before?
yeah, I listened to that
Okay.
maybe, maybe 3-4 months ago,
Okay.
I'd say. But yeah, I mean, his story did resonate with me as
Right.
far, just like anybody else's story of,
Right.
taking a risk, of betting
Right.
on yourself,
Yep.
of not being afraid of the outcome,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
you
just
can't be
going
afraid of
for
it.
it.
Yeah. No, that's what's up, man. Yeah, so he peels back the story so you can
Yeah,
see where the mindset. This is like another mindset
yeah,
podcast.
for sure, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then, like I said, he just has an amazing list of guests, man, that are way, and I mean, these are some of the most intelligent people in the world.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
had
yeah.
ex-CIA guys on there,
Dang.
astrophysicists,
Yeah.
engineers, Elon Musk,
Okay.
even to Kanye. He's even had Kanye
Oh,
on
he's
there.
had Kanye on there?
So
I'm gonna have
yeah,
to
so
check that
he's
out.
he's got a wide list of guests. But what about yourself, man? What is a good podcast, man, that you would recommend to keep you grounded and tethered right now at the moment?
So I like listening to the Bedros, I'm probably gonna mess up his name, Killian show.
Mm-hmm.
Bedros Killian. And usually the reason why I like him is because he he's pretty real in his podcast. They're not very long.
Mm-hmm.
They're nice and short,
Mm-hmm.
but he actually they're impactful for sure because he always has like a story. I like because he tells a story
Mm-hmm.
of what happened to him and he kind of breaks it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's geared more towards men,
Okay.
but it kind of it just tells you how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're listening to it, you're like, damn,
It's very
like,
raw.
yeah, it's just raw. It's like,
Mhm.
damn, like, like if I can give you a title, I'm gonna give you a title real quick.
Cool.
So like this one is it came out October 24th. Hard Truths About Life.
Mm.
So I haven't listened to it yet, but
But you
I'm
know
sure
there's some
I
good
know it's
stuff
gonna
in
be
there.
some good stuff because
Yeah.
it's a lot of relatable stuff for us who we go through our own things, but
Yeah.
really in life, stuff that you've gone through, I've probably gone through too.
For sure.
Maybe at different moments,
Mhm.
maybe a different version, but it's all about the same.
Mhm.
So that's what I like about his because he's obviously very successful
Mm-hmm.
and he's productive. So there's a lot of stuff I can take away that I can apply to my own self.
For sure.
And then if I feel like I'm, like, man, I haven't, I'm being lazy or whatever, I can just throw his podcast on.
Yep.
And be like, all right.
It'll
Now I
spark-
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then E.T., the hip hop preacher, he has a good
Mhm.
podcast. I don't listen to the whole podcast sometimes because sometimes it's, it's for people. So sometimes they kind of go on a tangent
Mhm.
or rant. So I like either just breaking down, trying to find a piece
Mhm.
of the podcast, or I'll, look at for shorts,
Mhm.
because E.T. has really good shorts.
Yeah, he does.
So-
He does.
So I usually go to him for that.
Nice.
But yeah, those are the two that I'm kind
Nice.
of, listening to outside of our own, obviously.
Right.
But but yeah, those would be two that I recommend for people to check out.
Okay, cool. And now, do you like more of the style that's the raw, unfiltered podcast, opposed to like I don't know, just more politically correct, I guess you could say. Podcast?
Yeah, I like that, and then I like that they get if it can get straight to it,
Gotcha.
kind of like ours. We don't, you don't need to fluff it up. Just
Right.
just once you deliver the information is delivered.
Right.
It's
Right.
I just like I like it that way. I don't like there's a couple other ones that are like a couple hours long, and I just can't. I'm looking for because there's always obviously the title
Right.
of the podcast. So you're
Right.
looking for the answer to the title, but you have to find it in
Right,
like
you
the
gotta
2 hour
mine for it,
spread or
yeah.
whatever. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's fine or whatever, but I think it probably gets people to listen to try to find it.
True.
But I do like when it's just delivered and then you're like, okay, I got it.
Yep.
I got it. Let me go out here and take care of things, whatever the case may be.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
that
What about
makes
you?
sense. I mean, I like a variety.
Mm.
I think there's times where, like you're kind of saying, maybe you're going through something, you're in a mental funk, and you want to get out of it. I'll go towards a podcast like the gentleman you just mentioned, or I'm trying to think of somebody that I could think of. I mean, this was back in the day, but even like a Les Brown.
Oh,
you know.
okay. Yeah.
For me, Les Brown was one of my, one of the first. I mean, this was before podcasting, but like motivational speaker who just
Oh, okay,
kind of
yeah,
get
yeah.
straight to the point.
Yeah.
and kind
Yeah.
of amp you up a little bit and make you go out there and want to go get it. But
Yeah.
then there are days where, you know, you're at the gym, maybe you're on the treadmill, maybe you're just doing a light workout where you want to hear something educational
Right.
and informational. So it just depends on the space or the time of day.
Right.
You know, for me.
Now, do you start off your day like that with
With a podcast.
with something, whether a podcast or
Um,
something, or is it more towards the middle of your day?
It's usually more towards the middle of my day.
Okay.
You know, depending. 'Cause usually I like to wake up, man. I'll let the pets out,
Yeah.
feed them, get a cup of coffee, kind of
Right.
just get the body awake.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I try not to. I'm not the best at it, but I try not to go on my phone right away.
Yeah.
You know, because then you can go on there and you just start scrolling for no reason.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
you get
So
lost.
yeah. So
Yeah.
once I get to work and I've set up and everything, and you know the day's flowing good, I'll pop my headphones in. You know, listen to a couple different podcasts. Just like I said, just depending on the feeling, the vibe. But usually
Right.
I can get in about an hour of listening a day. At
Oh,
least
that's
an
pretty
hour.
good.
Yeah, at least an hour.
Oh yeah, because you're probably just work.
Yeah,
You're
while
just-
I'm cutting hair,
yeah.
you know, and I'll switch. It's not like I'll listen to just one entire podcast, you know,
Yeah.
kind of like what you were saying. Once I
Right.
get the information that I was looking for,
Right.
or I hear what I was looking for, then I'll move on to the next podcast
Right.
or a
Right.
different subject. You know?
Yeah. That's how I do it. Yeah, I'll do it the same way because I always need. I'm a big firm believer, obviously, in constant reminders.
Mhm.
So those are the ways that I can constantly remind myself of what
Mhm.
needs to be done.
Yeah.
Especially when things get overwhelming sometimes, and you're just
Yeah.
like, dang, how am I gonna do this? But then it's good to have somebody like on a podcast, even though like we don't know each other.
Because it's like we hold each other accountable,
Right.
You know, in
Yeah.
a weird way,
Right.
You know,
Yeah, like this
without
dude
having to
Bedros
say it.
don't know me, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
but like I know if he don't put out a podcast, I'm gonna be like, man,
Right.
where you at, man?
Right.
I need some answers.
Right. Right.
You know, that's the best way to go find them.
Yeah.
You know, so
Now, you know what's interesting too is like more men listen to podcasts than women. So I think there's a correlation between, you know, kind of tying everything that we talked about today. You
Yeah.
know, with us not necessarily knowing how to express our emotions at times,
Right.
bottling it up, not knowing how to even have a conversation about it
Right.
sometimes, but having an outlet, right?
Yeah.
Plugging that outlet in and being somebody that you don't even know, but
Yeah.
the words that they're saying are really resonating with you.
Yeah.
You really feel like, man, I needed to hear this today.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think, you know, in a weird way, man, podcasting has helped a lot of men.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
You
it
know?
is.
I don't think it was initially like that was going to be a benefit. You
Right.
know? But
Well, yeah, because now you got more stories to
yes.
relate to. Like
Yes.
if somebody told the story one way, and they come and listen to our podcast, maybe it's going to be different. Maybe they'll be
Right.
like, oh, I like the way the
Right.
electives told it. Then some of
Right.
this other guy, I like the delivery or whatever.
Right.
Which I think is another thing. It's all about the delivery, and if you can, resonate with the delivery of it. Because there's some people that are excellent podcasters. I just don't.
True.
I
It
just
doesn't
can't.
resonate
The
with you.
vibe
Yeah.
is just. I can't listen to you, man. I'm
Yep.
sorry. I just.
Yep.
I don't like the way you're doing it. So.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important. But it's interesting that girl. See, I wonder. Where'd you find that study?
It was either on YouTube or Google.
because I almost
Because a podcaster it was on a podcast episode.
that men listen to podcasts more than women.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Dang.
Because I believe it was Joe Rogan's. Because
Joe Rogan's?
Because his was like his is obviously the most popular one in the
Right.
world.
Yeah. He's got.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you look at his fan base, it's
Was mostly
yeah,
men.
80
Yeah.
at least 80%, men.
Yeah.
And what is he talking about on there? What did he start off talking about?
Yeah.
Joe was just like, it was the most random
Right.
guest you could think of.
Yeah.
One episode you have Neil deGrasse Tyson on, who's an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And then he'll have on his buddy, Steve. What's
Steve-O?
his name? Not Steve-O. I forget, but anyway, just like
Yeah.
one of his buddies.
Yeah.
Who's just like a comedian, and
Right.
and then before you know it, man, like more men started tuning in because somewhere down the line, through all these hours and hours of conversation,
Right.
there were gems in there.
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah.
And the men started realizing, like, okay, maybe I can learn something. I think,
Yeah.
or I resonate with that. And I
Yeah.
can learn from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. That's interesting because I think maybe women turn to podcasts for entertainment.
Could be,
Crime podcasts.
could be.
They like
yeah, or
listen to the drama
podcast.
Drama
yeah.
podcast. Yeah.
There's a lot out there too. Or
Yeah.
the one that I think is most popular for women is the crime
Yeah,
docs.
the crime docs.
They,
They love.
I don't know what it is. I
I
don't
don't
know
know
what
either,
the
man.
infatuation is with,
With crime
yeah,
docs,
with crime docs, but there's a large population of women out there that love it.
we might
You
have
know,
to find like a crime doc podcast or a local pod.
true.
See what it is that like that.
I
What's
think
so
intriguing about
yeah?
it.
Why do you like that?
I think, well, so like I guess there's the most obvious thing is right that it's eerie, that it's you know not your typical, I guess, talking topic, you know,
Right.
and maybe there's a little bit of like suspense to it and mystery, and
Okay.
you know, I think
Yeah.
that maybe I don't know,
Maybe.
but you're
Yeah.
right.
Could be.
We'll have to ask.
We'll have to
We'll have
ask
to
what it
ask,
is
man, and figure
because
it out.
I
Yeah,
I could never get into them. You know,
yeah,
never.
yeah.
And
I
that's just
mean,
weird listening to it. I guess for me.
yeah. Well, like there was a doctor on Instagram, just scrolling, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that she brought up the fact that like if you're a person that goes to bed before you go to bed at night, if you're watching like serial killer docs or something like that, there's something off.
There's something wrong with you.
There's something off that you can watch
Oh
something
man.
that crazy and that heinous and then go to bed right after, you know.
Yeah.
And like you should probably start trying to work through why this doesn't bother you, you
Why
know.
doesn't this bother you?
So, but yeah, I
Oh
just
man,
thought that
that's
was.
funny.
I remember just seeing it, and I was just like, man, this is really interesting, you know.
Yeah,
Really
that is interesting, man. Yeah. Now, for podcasts and the podcast that you're listening to, was there ever a time where like you actually did apply that, where you're like, man, I'm in a funk, and you turned it on, and you're like, and it got you through it, like
Yeah.
refocused you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because like you said, sometimes you don't want to talk about it with anybody, or
Yeah.
you don't feel like you can talk about it with anybody.
Right.
So just by pressing play, man, and just listening,
Yeah.
and then also too, I think you're thinking about when you're listening to somebody else go through a similar experience, you're thinking about how you're going through your own experience, right?
Right.
And you're kind of having an internal dialogue in your head,
Yep.
you know,
That
and
voice
you're-
inside.
Yeah, and you're working through it on your own.
Yep.
You know, it's I guess in a way that is therapy almost. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I would agree with that.
just I mean, it's it's a yeah. I don't. Now that I'm thinking about it, it is a healthy way of doing it. You know,
Yeah.
because it may only take you 15, 30 minutes, depending on what you're listening to, for you to be able
Right.
to work through a problem that's really bothering you, or
Right.
you just can't get around. Or,
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, or
So-
maybe give you the words that you need to be able to express it. Like maybe like,
True.
like I didn't know how to say it, but now that I heard
Mm-hmm.
this guy say it, man, I like the way he said it, so now I can say it this way.
True.
You
True.
know,
that
which
helps too.
yeah, that helps too, because yeah, I think that's definitely needed for sure. Because I know you brought up when we were talking, you were talking
Mhm.
about you wanted to tie in what the craziness that's going on in the world today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obviously with like the Middle East, Ukraine, fucking here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We got our own problems
Yep.
that we haven't handled.
Yep.
Is that like where you feel podcasts should, like people should start trying to find information or find something to listen to rather than tuning into what all the craziness that's going on out there?
So like Denzel said, once again, these aren't my words, but Denzel said once in an interview that if you watch the news, you're uninformed. Or no, if you watch the news, you're misinformed. If you don't watch the news, you're uninformed.
Right.
So, and he brought that up because he was telling the media that they have a great responsibility to make sure that they tell the truth, not to be who's first, but to tell the truth.
Right.
Because whoever tells the truth, well, the truth is going to last the longest, right?
Right.
We live in a society now where everything is about drama, everything is about clickbait.
Right.
All the wars that are going on in the world right now have completely taken all the news coverage by storm. And there's a lot of problems and issues that we have here, right here at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time to be alive.
Yeah.
Our grandparents didn't have the access to all this information.
Right.
And I honestly don't know what are going to be the long-term side effects of having this much information in your brain at all times throughout the day. I don't think it's healthy for us.
No,
as
yeah.
a species and as a society.
Yeah, and I think it's we have all these podcasts, we have YouTube channels, we have TikTok. I think my prediction is that it was given to us to see what people would do with it.
Right.
So you're gonna have some people use it for pure, just nothing.
Yeah.
You're feeding your brain nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna have other people who are actually gonna use the information, which is gonna be a very small percentage,
right,
that use it every day.
Right.
Like we talked about in one of our other videos. If you look at your algorithm,
right,
you'll know what you're feeding yourself
mm-hmm.
every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it, you're like, well, that's dumb, that's dumb, that's dumb. Then eventually, I mean, what do you think the results are going to be from that?
Right.
So I think I saw a video where there was a guy talking to a group of people about God and, why would God do this if he's
mm-hmm.
God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way I'll tie this in is that, God gave us a hand,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But if I take this hand and I go and close my fist and then I hit you in the face, that's not what my hand was meant for. Right? So he's like, God gave us like the free will to do that.
Right. To make a choice, yeah.
Now it's like, okay, we got it. He's probably giving us all this for just to see what we're going to do with it.
So and
which makes it, it makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, why would they give us all this? Well, because he's giving it to you to see what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, yeah, that is true free will. And I mean, this is an interesting topic and discussion. I know. Cause,
right.
Because you don't, that's a great point.
Right.
Then that would mean, is there such thing as good and bad? Or is it just, because how would you know if something's good without experiencing the bad and vice versa?
Right.
So even everything that's happening right now in the world, these world wars, right?
Right.
It seems to be that it's a part of human nature that we're always going to be a violent species at some point.
At some point, yeah.
And for whatever reason, we always want to take someone else's resources.
Right.
At some point. It's only a matter of time before that happens. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like this is just maybe a growing period for us as a species, right?
Yeah, I could agree with that.
I think, and I mean, when we bring up the concept of time, like we want to see the world change in our lifetime, right?
Right.
But the honest truth is that it's not the way that we would like to see it.
No, yeah.
And so I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because there are times where I say to myself, we're better than this. Yeah. And then there's other times where I fully recognize that we're not as far away from animals as we think.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's just all about what you do with the information. That's why, I guess that's why one of the reasons we created this was to deliver the valuable information so that people could take stuff away. Because, yeah, man, there's just so much out there you could get lost in that. And that's what it'll end up being, is you'll get lost in it, So,
so yeah, we recommend, man, finding, a few good podcasts that, like the couple that we mentioned.
On top of ours.
On top of ours, obviously, of course.
Right.
Yeah, that goes without saying. But, and just continue to educate yourself, continue to learn, continue to grow, you know. And this was an episode, man, that went by pretty quick. So we want to thank you guys for watching, for listening. Is there anything else, man, you would like to say?
No, man. Hit him with that intro, cuzzo.
The intro or the outro?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hit him with that outro, cuzzo.
No, you're good. We'll see you guys on episode 36. Take care. Peace.